Our story this week is The Day the Rolettes Got Their Moxie Back. The genre is historical fiction, which means even though it is a made up story, there are some elements of things that actually happened in real life in the story, but the characters and their story are make believe. Our essential question for this week is, how do shared experiences help people adapt to change?
Sometimes the thing that gets you through hard times comes like a lightning bolt from the blue. That's what my brother's letter was like, traveling across the country from a work camp in Wyoming. It was 1937, and Ricky was working to create buildings for a state park as part of President Roosevelt's employment program. The program created jobs for young men, but it hadn't helped our dad find work yet. I imagined Ricky looking up at snow-capped mountains, breathing in the smell of evergreens as he turned trees into lumber and lumber into buildings. It almost made an 11-year-old weakling like me want to become a lumberjack. In our New York City apartment, the air smelled like meatloaf and cabbage. Dad sat in his chair, facing the window, obviously trying to catch the last rays of sunlight rather than turn on a light. My older sister Ruth and I compared our letters from Ricky. Surely, Ricky was in a talent show. He wore a grass skirt and did a hula dance while playing a little guitar, Ruth reported. I'll bet he was great. It would be swell to have our own talent show, I replied. Should I start sewing grass skirts? Mom asked from the kitchen, which was just a corner of the room with a stove, sink, and icebox. Come set the table. Dinner's almost ready. Dad stayed where he was, looking gloomy. Any jobs in the paper? Mom asked, her voice showing her sympathy. Dad shook his head no. He had been an artist for the theater, but most productions now had little cash. Dad drew show posters just to keep his skills sharp. He even designed posters showing Ruth and me in our costumes and named it Rolette's Follies. For dinner, Mom served a baked loaf of whatever ingredients she had. From the reddish color, I could assume it had beets in it. I guarantee you'll like these beets, she said. It's beet loaf, the meatless meatloaf, she sang as she served it. Ruth fidgeted, excited about the idea of putting on a talent show. Though calm on the outside, inside I wanted to get started on it too. Over the next week, Ruth and I practiced a dance for our own talent show. Meanwhile, our parents began to worry about heating bills. Cold weather had set in. One Saturday, my father decided to grab some coffee at the local soup kitchen, hoping to hear news about any available jobs. Ruth and I begged to go along. Finally, he agreed. Most everyone in line outside the soup kitchen was bundled up to keep warm. Many had to rely on only thin layers to protect them from the cold. Like other men in line, Dad bowed his head as if in shame. The line moved slowly. Ruth became bored. She began practicing her dance steps. I sang an upbeat tune to give her some music. Around us, people lifted their heads. Frowns turned to smiles. Folks began clapping along. Hearing the supportive response, Ruth danced with spirit. Those girls sure have moxie, someone shouted. Why, they ought to be in pictures, offered another. I'd nominate them for an Academy Award, a woman called out. Those are my girls, Dad said with pride. Everyone burst into applause. For those short moments, the past didn't matter. We were all filled with hope for the future. I couldn't wait to write Ricky to tell him the news.